What's up guys, Bernth here. Today we will do something quite a bit different and take a look at a live performance video of the amazing Kiko Loureiro, current guitar player for the band Megadeth. There's quite a lot to learn by watching what's happening here, and I'd like to dive a bit into the general construction of the guitar solo, his technique and theory approaches, and also the performance itself. The song is called Conquer or Die and is taken from the latest Megadeth record Dystopia, which you should definitely check out if you're a fan of great guitar work and songwriting. The solos on there are spot on. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe to stay updated for more guitar lessons. And if you'd like to learn even more, I release weekly in-depth lessons on patreon.com/Bernth. Let's get started with the video now. Okay, I already have to stop here, because the intro of the solo is very cool to me. Instead of starting in the first measure of the main solo riff, Kiko is accenting the last 4 chords before that, a small descending 2-measure cadence. It sounds and is played like that to my knowledge. We are in D standard tuning here, so Dave is playing an A power chord, then goes down to G and adds the major 6. So E here can stay, then goes down to F with the added major 6 and 3rd, D and A. That sounds really nice. And the last chord is an E power chord before we're back at D for the main solo riff. Kiko is playing against this descending riff by moving up the fretboard with some really cool unison bends, and that's very interesting in my opinion. For these you play an interval and bend up the lower note until it reaches the pitch of the higher note you are playing. For example, with C sharp here, that's the first unison bend. He's also adding some really nice vibrato to give those bends more character and emotion. The first note C sharp here is the major 3rd to the chord in the background, so that adds more harmonic context and is much more interesting than just playing an unison bend of the root note or even just the 5th. Up next he does the same thing for the notes D, E and F. Here's that part. After that he really makes a great introduction right at the beginning of the actual solo with pretty much the highest note he can hit on the guitar in this tuning. He's bending up to D from C on the 22nd fret of the high D string. Let's see what happens next. Okay, I have to stop again, although it's very hard to interrupt his great playing. Another cool thing right at the beginning of the solo is his utilization of hybrid picking here. Kiko is also an amazing acoustic guitar and fingerstyle player, and if you know the intro to this song, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. If you have any unique skills that you don't see in the music you're playing a lot, I definitely encourage you to include them in your playing or songwriting. This will really set you apart from the rest, and the competition is really big nowadays, as we know. I, for example, studied jazz guitar and include a lot of music theory knowledge in my playing, like advanced chords, exotic scales, custom arpeggios, chord substitution and more. If you manage to find your own personal sound and something that people will remember about you or your playing, you are on a great way in my opinion. So with this hybrid picking technique, he has the possibility to skip between different strings quite easily. This part of the solo would be much harder without this special technique. He's playing octaves here, and that leaves us with a nice rhythmic syncopation since the notes are repeated 1 octave higher and perfectly connected with slides. Here's an example of a lick like that, since you can't hear or see it that clearly in the video. Let's continue watching now. Right here, I really liked that he picked up again on the unison bending motif from the beginning of the solo and that he reworked it a little bit. Working with catchy phrases in your solo is much more entertaining and enjoyable for the listener than just shredding away all the time. To my knowledge, Kiko improvised this solo and learned it for the stage, so his improvisational skills are also really good. Let's continue watching. Notice how freely he's moving on stage here, although he's playing some very heavily accentuated licks, and that is so much harder than it looks here, not only because the shows he is playing are so big. Just try it out at home and then imagine yourself in an arena while being filmed by hundreds of people in the audience. This kind of freedom in performance takes many years to learn and hard work to achieve, and is often neglected aside from all the talk about technique and theory. I remember playing my personal biggest show on TV in front of 100,000 people, and getting into a relaxed and easy mindset before playing was very hard for me, and it took a couple of songs to really get into it. So that's a thing that Kiko has really perfected, in my opinion, when he's running out to the front of the stage right at the beginning of the set. For me, it gets better with every show and tour, and I'm sure that you will also see lots of progress the more time you spend on stage, so definitely keep playing live. Let's see what happens next. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the same goes for this quite complicated pattern requiring some stretching on the fretboard. He wears his guitar quite low, and if you don't have a good left-hand technique, it will be quite hard to play as well as when you're sitting down. You can try this out at home. When you're sitting down like this, it's very easy to stretch quite far. As soon as the guitar moves down and your technique gets a little bit sloppier, you end up with this kind of angle. And then there's not a lot of freedom of your fingers, so it will be very hard to execute the same kind of stretching licks that Kiko is playing here on stage. Let's take a quick step back and look at the cool speed picking phrase he played here at the end. I really love how clean it is executed in terms of note spacing and dynamics. Exactly, that one. It's in harmonic minor. So the 7th scale degree is raised in comparison to the Aeolian or natural minor sound, and that makes it just a little bit more exotic. It's this kind of sound. This would be the raised 7th here. Just a half step away from the root. And that has a really dark and exotic sound to it. I like this one a lot. So it's just a small or short lick, but it has quite an impact to me because he's playing it so clean, and the scale is a little bit more exotic than the standard minor approach. And it's great that he saved the really fast sections for later in the solo. That way of writing solos is much more interesting, and the general structure of the whole solo is really good in my opinion. Let's continue. There we hear the unison band theme again, which is great. Okay, so this might be the catchiest part of the whole guitar solo, and the concept is also very interesting. This is the last thing I will go into, although I could talk all day about all these killer sections. The riff in the background is a chromatic composition, very common for Megadeth songs, and I would even go that far and call it a small trademark of the band or of the way that Dave Mustaine is writing riffs. So Kiko can pretty much choose how to compose and place his arpeggios over those single notes. They are not defined as major or minor or diminished or augmented by the rhythm guitars or bass. You still have to be a little bit careful with that, since suddenly using notes that are not in the key you are playing in can also sound very strange. In this case, it's not taken to the harmonic extreme. Kiko is starting with a D minor arpeggio, or just part of the D minor scale, for D here, which sounds very nice. And then, as soon as the rhythm guitar goes to E, Kiko is playing an E major arpeggio. And then when he gets to D sharp, he's playing a D sharp major arpeggio. So that's the color for D. That's the color for E. And then we have for D sharp. And that's the reason why it sounds so unique and catchy. Instead of just playing within the scale, he is arpeggiating the single notes from the rhythm guitar or bass, just like a jazz guitar player would approach improvisation over complex chords, for example. I don't hear that a lot in metal, and small theory tricks like this one add so much to the sound of your solo and your band in general, in my opinion. Let's see how he ends the solo now. Nice. Really cool. Nice pose in the end too. So for the grand finale we have some crazy pick tapping and another tapping figure to top it off, and then we end with the banded root note D as the climax, just like he played it in the beginning. I really love that final build up to this moment and the tension that is created this way. The whole solo has a really epic feeling to it, and I'm sure that people that don't listen to instrumental music or are not guitar players at all will not skip this song on the record. It is so well put together and composed and entertaining, and that is really quite a challenge when you write a song without vocals. I hope you enjoyed this video. I would like to thank Kiko in the end for uploading so many amazing videos on his YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to him, head over right now. You can learn a lot from his videos. He also posts some really cool playthroughs of Megadeth songs and some great lessons where you can learn about technique and theory. We played a festival show called Nova Rock together. That's a festival in Austria. He played there with Megadeth last year. I played there with Seiler und Speer. And he warmed up in the backstage booth right next to me, and that immediately inspired me to pick up a guitar and start practicing. I watched part of the show and it was really amazing. I sadly had to leave soon because we were gearing up to play on the other stage. So have fun practicing, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment to let me know what you want to discuss next. All the best, I will see you soon.